The market on close. I'm Marley, Kayden here in Chicago alongside Vadas at the New York Stock Exchange. We'll wrap up our week with some final thoughts on today's session and some of the performance that we saw this week. Gold and metals sticking out for me. Gold just missed getting a win on the week as confidence in the Fed rate cut next week continued to remain high. Gold futures hovering around 42.30, leading to a 0.4% drop on the week. They almost had a slight gain there, still more than $100 off of the October records that we've seen. So far, the precious metal has inked more than 50 all-time highs this year, surging more than 60% year to date, making it a top asset for 2025, but it's still behind silver, which did notch another record high of 59.32 earlier today, closed the week up 4% higher and is up roughly 100% year to date. We also wrapped up a week of strong retail earnings with companies ranging from American Eagle to Ulta, Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Victoria's Secret, several others posting strong third quarter reports. Their results signaled momentum heading into the holiday season, with many of those companies revising their full year and their current quarter guidance. Consumer sentiment did tick up slightly in December as well, but still remains pretty negative overall year to year, despite these positive spending trends that we're seeing from retailers and a record spend that we saw during Cyber Week. Sam, what caught your eye during the session?
Yeah, well, just really interesting tech stories, all with a bit of an Nvidia tinge. I mean, we did see that stock actually down today. Shares in SoftBank were in double digits this week as well. The Wall Street Journal saying the CEO, Masayoshi-san, is working on a plan with the Trump administration to build industrial parks for AI infrastructure, and the facilities would reportedly be funded by investments pledged by the Japanese government in its recent trade deal with the US. Earlier this week, Masa did say that he was crying over selling Nvidia shares. Now, shares of Morfred, that is a Chinese GPU maker known as China's Nvidia, exploded more than 400% on its debut in Shanghai overnight after raising over $1.1 billion. The company was founded by a former Nvidia executive and was added to the US trade blacklist back in 2023. It is yet to turn a profit, but it aims to use these funds raised to work on new generation chips, among other things. Why this is important is because it underscores China's self-sufficiency push to boost domestic chip making to compete with the US, i.e. Nvidia, and Morthreads is really just seen as a way to replace those foreign chips with local ones, so something to keep an eye on. And shares of Hon Hai Precision, or Foxconn as it's also known, rallying over in Taiwan overnight as well after a strong monthly revenue report. The company raking in $27 billion in November, marking a 26% increase year over year. It's expected to see 14% growth for the next quarter. Now, this is important because Foxconn is a major Apple supplier and an Nvidia partner. It makes the servers that contains the chips in the data centers. Now, the cloud and networking products have now become the biggest business for Foxconn. So really interesting tech stories this week that we've been looking at. But heading into next week, Marley, what will you be looking out for?
I am sure you will not be surprised to hear, but it's Fed week. I'll be, of course, so will you. We will all be watching the Fed as the December FOMC meeting kicks off on Tuesday, with that rate cut decision expected on Wednesday afternoon. Now, the odds of a December interest rate cut stand at roughly 87% right now. Fed officials are wrestling with signs of a slowing economy and sticky inflation, and the absence of any recent government data and growing division among officials at the central bank have led to some uncertainty as to how big this cut could be and if it will seem hawkish or dovish in nature. And Sam, I know in some conversations that we've had, there's been discussion with guests about if we may see a different Jerome Powell as well in the press conference post-decision, because he's entering what one guest referred to as his lame duck period, and with little to lose, we may hear a little bit more than we usually do from him. How about you? What are you watching?
Wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall at that meeting? But obviously we'll be tracking what they say in that, and certainly be tracking all those lines coming out of that. But we've also got more earnings to chew on. We're at the tail end of this earnings season, Marley, now, but some really notable names as well. I mean, we've mentioned a couple in the show already. You ran through some of the expectations for Broadcom. Obviously, this has been hitting a new all-time high last week, and so this is going to be further confirmation very much of that whole AI trade. We'll also be getting a little bit more of an update on just broader tech with Oracle. Obviously, this has been a really big story as well. Remembering how much it jumped off its previous earnings report, it was really around that RPO, the future contracts. I think it was about $455 billion. So let's see if we hear from that company, as to whether they're continuing to see some of those trends. But, we're also going to be getting a bit of an update on the cloud and software from the likes of Adobe. We're going to also be hearing from Costco. We want to continue to hear about how the consumer is holding up, given obviously what we've heard from some of the other companies. And then Lululemon as well. I mean, this has just been a fascinating one. We've seen analysts turning more cautious on this name. They had some very interesting, choiceful sort of language last quarter. So let's see what they have to say, because, obviously this is a company that has also been struggling a bit as well. So quite a sort of broad kind of sector look next week at some of these earnings.
We will be, but that is going to do it for us today on Market on Close.